What I'm about to show you will change everything you thought you knew about extinction. Just 3 days ago, marine biologists made a discovery so shocking that the scientific community is in complete chaos. They found living megalodon DNA, 3.6 million years after this apex predator supposedly vanished forever. It started with what was supposed to be a routine deep-sea expedition. A joint mission between NOAA and the Oceans Institute was sent to the Mariana Trench, one of the deepest, most mysterious parts of our planet. Their goal? To collect microbial samples from hydrothermal vents. But what they pulled up would shock the world. Roughly 7 miles beneath the surface, the team deployed a submersible drone. As it moved through pitch-black water and crushing pressure, it suddenly made contact with something massive, something that wasn't rock. Their onboard sonar flared red with an organic signature, dense, moving, and definitely alive. The probe managed to retrieve a strange tissue sample from the object. At first glance, it looked like cartilage. Back on the research vessel, under ultraviolet light, the material began to pulse, just faintly. It wasn't fossilized, it was fresh, living. Lead biologist Dr. Eliza Navarro immediately ordered DNA analysis. The results, even after triple confirmation, were beyond belief. The tissue matched the genome of Otodus megalodon, the extinct apex predator believed to have vanished more than 3 million years ago. But the real twist, the DNA wasn't just intact, it was biologically active. This wasn't ancient degradation. This was living tissue, pulled from a living source. And that means something terrifying. Megalodons, or something very close, might still exist today. In theory, DNA should begin degrading within a few thousand years of an organism's death. Under normal conditions, especially in saltwater environments, any organic matter left behind would be obliterated within decades. But this sample defied everything we thought we knew about genetics, preservation, and extinction. In the lab, scientists found long, uninterrupted strands of DNA, fragments far too complete to be ancient or fossilized. It was almost as if the tissue had been preserved in cryogenic stasis, perfectly shielded from time and decomposition. One analyst said it looked like the sample had just come off the bone. Even more unsettling was the discovery of an intact gene cluster associated with endothermic regulation. In other words, this animal wasn't just cold-blooded. It may have been warm-blooded, like mammals. That would give it the ability to regulate internal body temperature, allowing it to survive in both deep, freezing trenches and warmer coastal waters. When compared to fossilized megalodon teeth DNA, the match came in at an astounding 97.4%. That's closer than some modern subspecies of sharks are to one another. In practical terms, that means we're either looking at a surviving megalodon or a direct evolutionary descendant still roaming the oceans. And here's where it gets darker. The DNA wasn't recovered from a static sample or from a corpse. The protein structures indicated it was torn from something recently alive, possibly during a feeding event, which raises one terrifying question: what exactly did it feed on? If a predator like the megalodon still exists, then the global marine ecosystem is already compromised in ways we can't yet measure. To understand why, you need to consider the scale of this creature. Today's apex predator, the great white shark, can grow up to 20 feet long. That's enormous by any standard. But the megalodon, estimates suggest it reached over 80 feet, with a jaw wide enough to swallow an entire SUV whole. Its bite force was powerful enough to crush the skull of a blue whale, and it likely fed on whales, giant turtles, and even other sharks. Now imagine something that large hunting in the modern ocean. In recent years, researchers have documented massive, unexplained bite wounds on the carcasses of whales washing ashore. These injuries didn't match any known predator, not orcas, not great whites. Some bite radiuses measured over 10 feet across. Meanwhile, sonar anomalies have been spiking. In late 2024, a U.S. Navy submarine recorded something over 65 feet long, moving at speeds once thought impossible, for a creature that size. It emitted low-frequency calls eerily similar to theoretical megalodon vocal patterns, tones previously only seen in ancient tooth resonance modeling. Even more chilling, the object left behind a heat signature, suggesting it wasn't cold-blooded. It had active circulation, muscular energy, and body heat. That would make it not just a relic, but a thriving predator. And if this predator is alive and feeding, then current oceanic food chains, from plankton to whales, may already be under threat. You might be wondering, if this is real, why isn't it on every major news network? That's the question a lot of scientists are now asking behind closed doors. According to recently leaked internal NOAA documents, any findings suggesting the presence of large, undocumented predators in U.S. waters are automatically flagged for national security review. The reasoning: economic and psychological stability. If it became public knowledge that a 70-foot carnivorous shark could appear on any coastline without warning, the consequences would be catastrophic. Entire fishing industries could collapse overnight. Coastal tourism would dry up. Shipping routes could be rerouted. The insurance industry would implode trying to reevaluate maritime risk. Governments may already be covering this up. Think back to 1938, when the coelacanth, a prehistoric fish believed extinct for 66 million years, was discovered alive off the coast of South Africa. That discovery was intentionally buried for months until researchers could control the narrative. The megalodon is a whole different monster. We're not talking about a harmless relic. We're talking about an apex predator with the ability to disrupt global trade, food supplies, and public safety. That's why insiders believe the footage, the sonar data, and the DNA are all being hidden or quietly discredited. But as we've seen from recent whistleblowers, the truth doesn't stay buried forever. The Mariana Trench DNA sample wasn't an isolated incident. In fact, it's just the latest in a pattern of disturbing evidence pointing to the survival of Megalodon, or something dangerously close to it. In June 2025, an autonomous drone exploring the Puerto Rico Trench suddenly lost contact. When recovered, its titanium casing was partially crushed, with puncture marks resembling tooth strikes. The spacing between the indentations was over 12 inches, too far apart for any known shark species. A few weeks later, an oil rig team in the South Pacific captured sonar footage of a massive shadow circling their underwater rig. The object had a dorsal fin the size of a sailboat. They initially believed it to be a malfunction, until 3 crew members visually confirmed the sighting before it vanished into the deep. Then came the Chilean Navy report. A diver surfaced in hysterics, refusing to return to the water. All he said was, "It's still down there, it's watching." Thermal imaging footage recently leaked from the Mariana expedition shows something even more chilling. In the background of the dive feed, a massive, fast-moving heat signature circles the submersible. The scientists on board didn't notice it in real time, but someone watching the archived footage spotted it and leaked the file. The signature moved with purpose, not drifting, not passive. It circled, it stalked, and in the very last few frames, a low-frequency rumble was recorded. It wasn't static, it wasn't interference. It sounded like a growl, ancient, slow, and angry. The scientific establishment is trying to silence this discovery, but we're just getting started. If living megalodon DNA is real, what else is still out there? What other prehistoric giants are hiding in the dark corners of our oceans, waiting to be found? If this blew your mind, hit that subscribe button right now, because next week I'm revealing evidence of another apex predator. One scientists have claimed for decades couldn't possibly exist in modern waters. But the sonar says otherwise, and the footage is even harder to ignore. And if you want to see the actual leaked DNA footage in thermal scan before it's removed, check the description. I've linked to a mirror upload that's being wiped off the internet as we speak. They don't want you to know this, but now you do, and you're going to want to stick around, because the truth won't stay buried forever.